One of the major self-leadership and leadership skills you need to navigate your life, your team, and whatever lays ahead of you is managing your emotions. Welcome back to your self-leadership channel, where you'll learn all about leadership and self-leadership, tips and tricks, and some things that always work with my clients. Hello, I'm Linda Milun. I'm a leadership coach accredited by the International Coach Federation. So today we want to look into it. Emotions are often a very sensitive topic. Some people say they are so rational, they don't struggle with their emotions. Often in my experience is that people who claim that they are not having problems with managing their emotions at all and that they're rather rational are often the ones who didn't deal enough with their emotions and the challenges that come along with that. So if you feel this is you, stay tuned, we will talk about that. But maybe you're someone who is fully aware of that you have emotions and that in your leadership position or even in your personal life, self-leadership in the area of emotions is not always as easy as we would like it to be. Even for you, here maybe will be something new for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share it with others, so stay tuned and let's jump into it. The most important step in all this emotion management is something that sounds really, really easy, but it's the most difficult part for many people, and that is acknowledge your emotions. Yes, you heard me right. Acknowledge your emotions. If you are not able to say, man, I'm right now really, really angry. If you can't confess that even to yourself, no one is with you, but you feel anger and you can't even be honest with yourself, then you have a problem. How can that look like to acknowledge your emotions? For example, you may know I have this very important meeting ahead of me, and this will be a tough meeting because something very serious happened in your company. You want to do it right. You, as a respectful and authentic leader, you want to first step back and hone in on yourself. So before you go into this meeting, it's helpful to take a moment. How do I feel? Even when it's about the fact that you have demerged or have a merger in your company, or you have to fire people, or you have growth. There are so many things that can cause strong emotions. Be it joy, anger, frustration, any emotion, even sadness can influence, impact your behavior. So hone in on yourself before you go into a meeting or situation, a reassessment. How do I feel right now? And what does that do to me? What kind of response or reaction does it cause? What makes acknowledge your emotions so important? Well, if you can't acknowledge your emotions, the next step that is very important for you to manage your emotions will be almost impossible, and that is self-regulation. Most of us should have learned that when we were still toddlers. A lot of things you are now doing very well or you're maybe struggling with in social contexts have to do with what you didn't learn at that age where you are going to learn social interactions. Now, what does self-regulation actually mean? Let's try to put it very simple today. Identify the impulses around you. What are the causes of these impulses? And ask yourself, how do these impulses impact you? For example, when we go back to managing emotions, about checking in how you feel, maybe nothing happened in your team, nothing happened at work, but you still realize you're agitated, you're stressed, you're in a bad mood because so much is going on. That means you have to be able to go into the meeting without letting your stress, your frustration out on your team. So self-regulation is the step between you feel something and you need to assess how you can reduce impulses or how you can reduce the impact of these impulses on you. That means, for example, if you are stressed and that's why you're feeling strong emotions, it's helpful to think about, how can I reduce my stress load right now? Are there things I can take out of my schedule? What options do I have to reduce the meetings I have in a day if that causes a lot of stress? What can I do if a project became too big and too much for one person to handle? Or what if you have stress at home? What can you do to reduce the stress load within your family or in your private life? However, I'm aware that sometimes in your life there are factors you can't influence. There are sometimes things that cause stress you cannot reduce like that by yourself. External factors that are not necessarily in your hands. In these situations, it's important to ask yourself, okay, I cannot take these impulses away, but how can I help myself to release or to reduce the impact they have on me? For example, a factor is stress. If you observe you have too many meetings in a day, but you can't reduce them because right now is a very intense season in your company, but you have free time in your private time and you go for a run, or you do things that release the stress, or you make sure that you have sufficient sleep, or at least that you have proper meals and proper hydration during the day. There are many techniques you can do to reduce stress which don't take long time. And all my clients know how much emphasis I lay on assess your nutrition, hydration, and of course sleep. And too often, these are actually the main reasons why you cannot regulate yourself. Which brings us to the next step. If all goes haywire and all your self-regulation techniques and tips and everything you tried to exercise didn't work out, then we go back to the good old self-control. So where self-regulation tries to prevent us to be impacted strongly by impulses so that we don't even get to a point that the emotions overwhelm us, self-control steps in when the impulses are too strong and the emotions are getting strong. That means instead of reacting impulsively, you restrain yourself and decide what would be a better response. Here we are in this field of instead of reacting, we are responding. For example, a team member caused a big problem within a team and there needs to be mediation, but still we want to do it in a respectful manner. Make sure that you act in this situation with a sound and clear mind. The anger you may feel should not control your behavior. That means instead of reacting, you hear the news, you know what happened, you go into the team meeting and you shout at everyone. That is a reaction. You do not want that. That's impulsive reaction. What you would want is you hear the bad news, you take a moment to assess, I am very angry, I couldn't prevent this situation. And instead of going and shouting now, you go and have an adult conversation with another adult about whatever is the cause of the problem. Does this mean you can never be angry? No, the other person can know that you are not happy with what happened, but there are different ways on how to express your anger. There are ways how to express your strong emotions without harming yourself or the situation or another person. That is called self-control. Our conclusion is for this: you first acknowledge your emotions. If possible, often it is possible, you self-regulate. How can I reduce the impact of the impulse in my life? Or how can I reduce the impulse at all? The next step is self-control. Instead of reacting, you're responding. The impulse is there. The impulse was very strong. You are responding instead of reacting. I am aware that a lot of people, or sometimes people, say self-regulation and self-control is the same. Well, it is a thin line, or let's say it's a gray zone. They can overlap. But in general, they are not 100% the same thing. You may agree or disagree. So to help you navigate it better, I split it very clearly into two separate things. And it's very easy for you now when a situation comes and when you feel emotions are there to assess, what are my emotions? How can I self-regulate? How can I respond instead of reacting? Let me know how that worked for you. I hope to see you again. Join me for the next video. Stay tuned. Subscribe, like, and follow.